Hello, everyone. Thanks for checking out this special episode of Really Dicey. This is Manny, and I'm here with.
Hello, I am Banana Chan, and thank you so much for having me on the show again.
and today we're going to talk about Dark Archive, particularly the cult section. Well, before we begin, I just want to congratulate you on winning the some of the Ennies from this past Gen Con. Hope I hope that was a great surprise.
Yeah, it really was. Thank you so much. Yeah, we had no idea that this was going to happen. Like, honestly, like we were up against some amazing products, amazing games, and just being nominated is like honestly an honor.
And in case everyone's wondering, I'll put links below of what they won, and if you want to check out the products. Um, But yes, so let's talk about cults in Dark Archive. So what's interesting about this book that I don't see too many other books that deal with cults do is that they actually separate secret societies and cults. And for a lot of people that I've talked to, they're actually surprised by that. Um,
Mhm.
uh, how how would you define the difference between the two?
Yeah, so I would say that when I got onboarded onto the project itself, I was basically the project manager mentioned that, hey, like we want to do a cult section, but we don't want to necessarily make it seem like all cults are bad. We don't want to necessarily like be like, hey, like, these are all creepy cults. Some of the cults, like we're using the term cult as a sort of like it could be like a religious thing. It could be like, it's basically a different take on the word cult, and so we wanted to keep that in mind, and we also wanted to like separate from secret societies because secret societies could mean like it could involve politics, it could involve like something else, versus like a cult is probably something that's like a little bit more religious, more associated with like spirituality, and so that's why there was sort of like this sort of like difference in terminology and the way we think about like these two chapters, these two sections of the book.
Good cults. That's a term that you don't hear too much about, at least those two words together. Usually, I think cults have a very negative connotation in this, at least in America. I mean, there was the whole thing with Kingdom of Cults, that book that came out in the 1950s. You think of Manson in the 70s. So, how would you describe good cults in the context of Pathfinder?
Yeah. So I would say that it's not necessarily like a good cult. Like it's not really like a good or a bad cult. It's just the term being used as like uh, sort of like the society that's like a communal society, perhaps, maybe one that's sort of different from the rest of like where they're situated, and they follow certain practices, certain traditions, certain things that are probably a little different from like the rest of where they're situated. So that's sort of like where we were trying to how we were trying to think of like the term cult versus just like these are strange people in like a strange environment who are trying to oppress everyone around them with their own beliefs and their own thinking. So that's sort of like where the mentality was, or at least the intention was.
Hmm. So cults is interesting in the fact that I think of everything in this book, cults are probably the most real thing
Yes.
that we can face in real life as well.
Mhm.
Um, so when you present this to players, um, what questions do you ask them to? So like, let's say I want to do something like this for my players. What questions do you think I should ask them so that I make sure that this experience is a comfortable one for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say definitely during a session zero, like ask everyone at the table beforehand, like, hey, is it okay if we play an adventure that involves like, for example, if we're using the adventure that's in the book, the Verdure of Iblydos, like if we're going to be diving into that, that is actually like about a bad cult. So if we're going to be playing in a setting like that, like, is everyone comfortable with playing with perhaps like manipulative, or maybe like people who abuse their own power. Is that okay? Is it okay if we play in a setting where a lot of people, they might have like a uniform way of dress, a uniform way of thinking, and is it okay if we play in a specific setting where they might impose that belief system onto your character? So those are some things that we might think about, and also like the idea of like being trapped. Like, is it okay if we play on an island where you are being, without too many spoilers, where you may be feeling like you're going to be trapped, and you have to fight your way through this.
Hmm. So since we're talking about the adventure a bit now, the Verdure of Iblydos, I find it fascinating that a setting based on Greek mythology and Pathfinder was picked, a part of the world that's not too many books about right now, especially in 2E. How did the idea for this adventure come about?
So a part of it was my assignment in general. So I was assigned like this area. But on top of that, a lot of the ideas came from like what I was interested in at the time. So folk horror was definitely like at the top of my list for things I was interested in. I saw, I was really into like The Wicker Man, and this is like not too soon, or actually, yeah, it was just like a few months after after Ravenloft, which I think is okay to say. So I was still sort of like in that mindset where I was just like, okay, I'm thinking a lot about folk horror, you know, really into Wicker Man, really into Blood and Satan's Claw, and I was just like really into like folk horror in general. And so this is also like right after I saw The Empty Man, which is nothing like the comic book. The Empty Man is, I believe, based off of the comic book, but very loosely.
Mm.
But the movie is great. It's like, if you think about it in like different types of genres of horror, I would say that there's like three different genres of horror like mashed together. And so the final genre that they tackle at the very end of the movie is folk horror. So that was sort of like the thinking that lingered with me when I was writing this.
Oh, okay. Okay. Were there any other things that helped you inspire this adventure? Any other tools that you used?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say like obviously Midsommar is like the big one, but that's just because it's like the most popular of the folk horror movies, I think. And I think that a lot of Midsommar's themes, they actually take a lot of it from like movies like Blood on Satan's Claw, which there are parallels, but I think the themes are like if there was like a one thesis statement sort of for Midsommar, it's definitely different from Blood on Satan's Claw. And so like there were a lot of things that I really liked when I was watching Midsommar, when I was watching Blood on Satan's Claw and Wicker Man, and I just wanted to like pick and choose like all the stuff that was like from those movies and like put them into this. And also I was just like really inspired by like today, right? Like so
Mm.
like the weirdness of like now, and the weirdness of like um the the wellness industry and how strange it is, and like the I guess like people capitalizing on wellness, and the way that a lot of the things in wellness, like a lot of people who use like spirituality or use like wellness as like a way to sell product or uh, make other people like think a certain way. And so that was really interesting to me, even if it was like terrifying or like weird, and is very real. I think that's very interesting how like it it only takes like a few people to like shape the way that like a group of people could think.
Mm. So, along that train of thought, when it comes to the themes of this adventure, were there certain ideas that you want to convey to players, or were you just trying to just make something scary?
A little bit of both. I would say like definitely a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I think that I definitely wanted to make something like creepy. That's like the main thing. But on top of that, I also wanted to just sort of like touch on like the idea of like manipulative people in power and how easy it could be to like manipulate people, especially when there are like certain themes involved, right? Like I think that people tend to get really excited for things that are very aesthetically pleasing. And so like when something is like aesthetically like exciting, like, they have flower crowns, they have like, crystals, they have like all this other stuff involved with like the way that they dress. Like there's suddenly this, I guess, like not excitement necessarily, but this interest, right? An interest in like, oh, like I want to learn more about, what this group does, like what are they doing, what are their rituals like. And I think that that sort of parallels with like a lot of the stuff that we see today with the wellness and spirituality groups.
Playing in a game as a player, and using the Dark Archive book, what character or characters would you make that would be you think would be great to fight against cults, evil cults?
Oh, so I love playing. So if I'm playing for like a more scary game, I would love to play like a character that just like is probably clueless about everything, like just like entering into this like without any knowledge of anything and just like jumping right in. Like that's sort of what I would play, like if I was going into this sort of like in a more creepy way. If it was like, yeah, actually, you know what? That's the only way I would play this. Like, I would love to play like a scary game of this and like make it as spooky as possible.
Well, excellent. Is there anything I haven't asked that you want to share about your experience writing this section? Did you want to add folk horror to this section? If you had more chance to write more stuff for this section, do you think that you would have
Oh,
added?
I would say that this is a full horror section. Like this entire like I think that both the well, mostly the adventure. The adventure itself is definitely categorized in my mind as folk horror, mostly because it does have like the three things that make it folk horror, which is like an isolated community, a specific belief system, violent happenings. Like these are all things that I would say that like make it a folk horror adventure
Hmm.
despite it being like very sunny and very pretty. It's like Wicker Man, where it's like, you first get into the island and everything is like sunny and pretty and beautiful, and everyone's like dancing around a maypole. Though in this specific adventure, there's no maypole. It's just like, people with flower crowns or whatever. But it's like everything is bright and pretty and like weird. Like, why is everyone so happy? Why is everyone so like, in love with each other? And why are they treating you so nicely, even though you just landed?
Hmm.
So yeah, I would say it's definitely folk horror.
Okay. All right, excellent. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us about your work in the Dark Archive. You and the rest of the writing team did a great job with this book. I'm enjoying it immensely. It's funny how like Paizo put out pretty much like almost like three different books about like the supernatural. They had like the Knights of Last Wall and then the Book of the Dead. And when I heard about this, I'm like, okay, you said enough, I thought. And then I read this like, nope, it just blew my mind at the amount of creativity and ideas in this section. So yes, thank you very much. And to our viewers, thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more videos. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.